Welcome to another episode of Erik Whiskey Studies, and in this video, gonna do a review of the Glenfarclas 105 Cask Strength Highland Single Malt Scotch Whisky. So this video is part of a series that I'm doing in preparation for the Certified Whiskey Specialist with the Council of Whiskey Masters. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more information than I normally do in my videos. We're going to cover the history, production, the core range, and then I'll do a review of this whiskey. Glenfarclas Distillery is located in the shadow of Ben Rennes, 3 miles south of Cardew Distillery. There is evidence that the distillery first started operations sometime before 1791, but distilling was not legal until the Excise Act of 1823. The history of Glenfarclas started when farmer Robert Hay built a distillery on the Reykjavik farm in 1836. On June 8, 1865, John Grant became tenant of the farm and bought the distillery. When he was 60 years old, he was married to Barbara, with whom he had 6 children. He was a successful farmer and cattle breeder, assisted by his distant cousin John Smith, who also helped with the distillery, supported by John's son George Grant. The cousin John Smith left Glenfarclas in 1870 to build another distillery, Cragganmore. When John Grant died in 1889, George Grant became owner of the farm and the distillery. 1 year later, George Grant died and left Glenfarclas to his sons, John and George, and his widow, Elsie. When whiskey boomed in the 1890s, the brothers decided to expand and went into partnership with Pattison, Elder & Company, which was ill-fated and nearly led to financial ruin of the Grants. During 15 hard years, the distillery was saved. The company was turned into J&G Grant, but John retired early and George led the family business on his own. The 4th generation of Grants stepped into business with George Scott Grant, who was chairman of Glenfarclas for 52 years until he died in 2002. George S. Grant laid down a large stock of casks and decided not to sell any of it to blenders as had been done before. This is why Glenfarclas Distillery has many old casks available. John L. S. Grant followed his father George S. Grant as chairman in 2002. At that time, he had already been working in the company for nearly 30 years. John L. S. Grant personally selects Spanish sherry casks that will mature the Glenfarclas whiskey, and he sources the malted barley for the production. The family cask releases are due to John L. S. Grant. When John L. S. Grant's son, George S. Grant, joined Glenfarclas in 2000, it was the 6th generation to rule the family business. George S. Grant works as Glenfarclas' brand ambassador and introduces the whiskeys to old and new markets. Glenfarclas Distillery experimented with steam-fired stills in 1981 because it was cheaper, but after 3 weeks, they returned to direct fire because the steam did not give them the character they wanted. While other distilleries ship the cask to be aged off-site in warehouses, all of Glenfarclas' whiskeys are aged on-site in Dunnage. In addition to providing a distinctive character, their microclimate keeps angel share down to 0.05% per year, whereas the national average is 2% per year. Glenfarclas Distillery predominantly uses first fill sherry casks from Jose Miguel Martin. Glenfarclas has 12 bottlings in their portfolio. The most commonly found in my area are the Glenfarclas 10-year-old, bottled at 40% alcohol by volume, sells for about $39. Glenfarclas 12-year-old, bottled at 43% alcohol by volume, sells for about $60. Glenfarclas 17-year-old, bottled at 43% alcohol by volume, sells for about $95. The Glenfarclas 25-year-old, bottled at 43% alcohol by volume, sells for $115, and the Glenfarclas 40-year-old, 46% alcohol by volume, sells for $950. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Glenfarclas 105. Although it doesn't state what kind of casks are used on the bottle or on the box, The website states John Grant personally travels to Spain to select the finest European oak previously used for the maturation of Oloroso sherry. There is no indication of age on the bottle or the box. Neither the bottle, the box, or the website state whether or not it has any chill filtering or natural color, but more than likely it does not. It's bottled at 60% alcohol by volume and sells for about $86 in my neighborhood. So while plenty of other whiskey tubers have reviewed this whiskey doesn't get a lot of talk, I would say, in chats and discussions about whiskey among whiskey tubers. So while reviews have been made, it doesn't get a lot of hype. There's some other distilleries, some other Scotch distilleries that people are always talking about, and it comes up in the chats or talked about in the live streams and so on and so forth. This one, I think, is a little bit sort of under the radar. It's been reviewed, but doesn't get really the attention that it deserves. Glenfarclas, I think, as a family-owned distillery with a lot of history to it, with a lot of integrity, with a lot of, held on to old-aged whiskeys, doesn't really get the love and attention that I think it should. So this is an absolute superb whiskey. Really, really dense and concentrated. And now, even though it's a non-age statement, to me, it comes across a whiskey with a little bit of age. I would say bare minimum, it's got to be at least 10 years old. So it is a bit of a sherry bomb with a lot of the dark, dried black fruit notes, fig, dates, raisins, plums, perhaps just a little bit of licorice, a lot of dark chocolate, some vanilla, caramels, a little bit of toffee on the palate. Wow. So, as you might expect, at 60% alcohol by volume, it packs quite a wallop. This is a whiskey that is better served with a little bit of water. Definitely opens up more. Neat. It is very dense, very concentrated, and very, I would say, sort of angular towards the middle of the palate. Add a little bit of water, or even put a little ice into it, and it'll open up and broaden out on the palate a little bit more. Pretty sweet all the way through. A lot of those dark, concentrated, dried black fruit notes, the fig, the dates, the raisins, maybe even a little more like a raisin pudding. There is a slight character there that reminds me of maybe like a bran muffin with raisins in it, sort of a dark bread note. The chocolate kicks in about midway through, perhaps a little bit of coffee as well. It has a nice long finish. And it finishes, I would say, a little bit savory on the back end, but it's pretty much sweet all the way through. This is an absolute superb whiskey, in the $80 to $90 range, somewhere around there. There are a lot of whiskeys, maybe a parallel quality, maybe even lesser quality like this that are going for $100 to $120 or more. This is a whiskey that doesn't get the love that it deserves, and I think it's absolutely spectacular. I'm going to give this a solid 90 points. A solid 90 points. It's so delicious. I've got it down to here already. As I was enjoying it, and dram after dram after dram, night after night after night, I had to sort of stop myself and remind myself, hey, I need to review this whiskey, so I can't drink it all. But this is definitely one that I'm going to keep on my shelf and get another bottle, before this one's gone. It's still widely available, because while everybody else is chasing after all those other bottles that everybody, hypes and talks about so much, are overspending on secondary markets and all that kind of crap, this is one that's still readily available and is absolutely superb. All right, if you like watching my videos, you not yet subscribed, actually subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when I go live or post a new video. And if you didn't already, if you're watching me on my live stream, we're going to look more into Glenfarclas during the live stream, and we'll have a little bit of a quiz during the live stream. So basically what I'm doing is reviews of whiskeys and then reinforce that information during live streams. So if you're going to watch my live stream after this, you're going to want to perhaps watch this video again, take some notes, because it's going to be a quiz during the live stream. All right, until next time, cheers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.